ABC News contributor and Cardozo Law School professor Kate Shaw. Thanks so much for joining us, Kate. The big question tonight, did it sound like to you that the justices are going to overturn Roe v. Wade?
It did sound that way to me, Lindsay. There are now 6 staunch conservative justices on the Supreme Court, which means you don't even need to keep all of the conservative justices in order to reach a conservative outcome. But of course, the court does overturn its prior cases. It has done so many times in the past, and there's supposed to be kind of a calculation done of how correct the earlier opinion was. That's one of the big things that the two sides were sparring over. Has Roe supplied an enduring test? Was it correct? And has it been workable in practice? Mississippi says, no, it was wrong at the beginning and it hasn't been workable. And, the challengers have said Roe was correctly decided as a matter of constitutional law and it should remain binding law.
Assessing the damage from above after Mount Semeru spewed piles of ash 12,000 meters into the sky. Down below, entire homes have been submerged. Villages blanketed with falling ash. The creeping lava is destroying everything in its path. Semeru is one of Indonesia's nearly 130 active volcanoes and is the highest peak on the nation's most densely populated island of Java. The sudden eruption was triggered by days of heavy rain. Smoldering debris, thick smoke, and power outages have hampered search and rescue operations. Evacuation efforts have been suspended for now, with the clouds surrounding the affected area remaining too hot to handle. People who managed to escape have been staying at this evacuation center. Those who want to return home have been told they can't, and to stay far away from the crater's mouth. The volcano had seen an increase in activity in recent days, but its alert status was not raised. Now, many here want to know why they weren't warned. An answer many will be seeking as they pick up the pieces of what is left behind.
Tonight, days after tornadoes sliced through multiple states, there are still more than 100 people unaccounted for in Kentucky alone.
We have people missing. I still expect that we will find at least some more bodies.
In Bowling Green, 11 people from 2 families died on one street.
Everything else you can replace, but family you cannot.
Here in Mayfield, this debris, of course, will be here for some time. All of this used to be a steakhouse, but today utility crews scrambled to install row after row of power poles, trying to get back at least some sense of normalcy.
Down over our dogs, and we were both praying.
All of a sudden, the walls caved in on me, the ceiling caved in, and blew me up on the floor. I was trapped in a corner under the dining room table as everything was just crashing around me. And I was trying to get to my wife at the other end of the house. Here, I was covered with blood.
My friend Roberta was buried under 5 feet of rubble, and her sister was on top of her.
The whole thing lasted like 4 minutes. I looked up with my flashlight to the edge of the house, and I noticed there was no wall there, and that's when I told my wife, I said, I want to tell you right now, I'm warning you, when we go up there, I don't think the house is there, it's gone.
And I got up and looked around in disbelief, and the walls were gone on the other side of the house, and this side you can see is what it is now.
We got nothing. Absolutely nothing.
The UK, the US, Canada, Germany, France, Italy, Japan, the G7 is a club of advanced economy democracies and their friends. And these meetings are a chance for them to affirm both what they're for and what they're against. Of all their perceived threats, COVID, China, Iran and more, it's that of Russia that is seen as the hottest issue. With Russian troops massed on the other side of the Ukrainian border, there's clear alarm from Western democracies about the possibility of an invasion.
Liz Truss's rallying cry for what she calls the free world is that like-minded countries should step up, they should unify, they should stop their introspection and drift and push back against perceived aggressors Russia and China, and they should do this using economics and technology.
This is what's left of a once thriving market in the far northern region of Cameroon. It was burned down in fighting about access to water in the region. This mobile phone footage shows armed herders in Kusieri looking for water points to feed their cattle, fighting with fishermen and farmers unwilling to share their wells. 4 months after the end of a rainy season that brought little rainfall, people are willing to kill for a drop of water. This vendor says this is a war fueled by lack of water spilling across the region, with the government standing by doing little to stop the fighting. At the local hospital, injured rival herders and farmers get treatment side by side after days of violence. The situation is tense. The governor offers envelopes of cash, but for many, this is not enough. While Cameroon's president sends his ministers to the region to mediate, more than 30,000 people have fled to neighboring Chad, where President Mohamed Idris Deby is calling for urgent humanitarian assistance. The displaced left behind their homes and belongings, but brought with them tales of horror. Not enough water and thirsty for revenge. This is a conflict made worse by a changing climate. With months to go before next year's rainy season, the people of Cameroon's far north fear the fight for water has only just begun.
More than 24 hours since Typhoon Rai first made landfall in the Philippines, and many areas remain cut off. Government leaders admit they are struggling to get an accurate picture of the typhoon's impact in Negros and Surigao provinces. In the town of Maribohok in Bohol province, rescue operations are still underway. Local government workers there say at least 20,000 families have already been evacuated from their homes, and many more are in desperate need of rescue. Evacuees can't stay in temporary shelters for too long because of COVID-19 restrictions. Social distancing in packed evacuation sites is difficult to implement. Many say they are more worried about the long-term impact of this devastation. Millions of Filipinos are already bearing the brunt of the economic recession. They fear the latest typhoon disaster could obliterate whatever livelihood they have left.
The government has pre-positioned aid and military as first responders across the country, but many communities remain cut off that officials and even aid groups are still struggling how and where to send aid to those who need it most.
Typhoon Rai devastated huge parts of the Visayas and the Mindanao regions. These pictures show extensive damage of the international airport in Cebu. Power and communication lines are down, and some hospitals are reported to be damaged. Even for a country often hit by natural disasters, this damage is being seen as unprecedented. Jamela Alindogan, Al Jazeera, Manila.